think my heart now beats for three. Obsessed and so obscure. You and me and Christopher Lee. Obsessed and so obscure. I think my heart now beats for three.
Welcome everyone to the 16th episode of Obsessed and So Obscure, a Matt Berry music podcast. I'm Tara, and I'm joined by my very lovely co-host Jessie.
Hi.
And Courtney.
Hello.
I've been very excited to deep dive into this album. It's absolutely one of my favorites. So it was released on September 18th, 2020, which is my birthday. Thanks, Matt. The release of it came after a year of absolute shit and isolation. I'm sure we can all agree on that. So when I heard that my favorite artist was releasing an album, it really cheered me up. I distinctly remember putting it on and hearing the first song and just getting chills up my spine. It grabbed me so completely. It had been a really shitty year. And this album, it just felt like a gift. There are no lengthy musical solos. It's very lyric driven. And if you know me, that's pretty much my ideal.
This album was released, like Tara said, on September 18th, 2020. And it came out on limited edition bone and red vinyl. There was also a black copy. There's no indication on Acid Jazz or from people we know who know about how limited the bone and the red were. The black one's still available on the Acid Jazz website. The bone was an Acid Jazz exclusive as far as we know. Some of the bone and the black were signed. When the red one was announced, they did a Record Store Day exclusive, and some of those came with a mini print of the cover art, and the mini print was signed. And then the inside sleeve, it has a selfie of Matt and a photo of the other two musicians on the album, who we'll talk about momentarily. And also, if you read the acknowledgement, I think the acknowledgement on this one's really sweet. He always does nice acknowledgements, but I thought this one was particularly touching because, I mean, it was clearly written at a time during lockdown, and this was released during lockdown, so it's very poignant, I thought.
It's definitely the most personal acknowledgements he's made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just have to give special mention to the selfie inside. I find it adorable. He looks so uncomfortable taking a selfie. He's not a person who comes naturally to taking selfies.
But
and
he
it's just
has.
So endearing.
We've seen selfies. We've seen him do selfies when he was dressed like Douglas. And then we've seen him do a selfie as Toast.
And Toast, but wearing jeans and a t-shirt.
Right. Just with the Toast hair. Yes. So this was the first one of Matt's albums that I bought because when I first discovered Matt's music, this was the most recent release. So this one was still the most readily available. Yeah. Which one do you guys have?
I've got the red. This wasn't the first of Matt's albums that I bought. I got into collecting vinyl a little bit later, but it was the first that I heard. And when I did start picking up all of his albums, the red was available for a good price on Amazon with free shipping. That was hard to beat.
Yeah. And then Tara, you just made an exciting discovery.
So we were talking about this and I was like, oh shit, I don't actually know what version I have. I know that I bought it, like, pre-ordered it. So I was like, I think I might have the bone one. So I frantically went and checked and I have the bone signed vinyl. And I also have another copy of it, still in the package that my husband gave me shit for buying. He was like, why? I'm like, well, like, first of all, the shipping is like so expensive. So I might as well buy two. That's always my,
It's a good rationale.
Yeah. So I still have that one. And I thought I would just kind of save it, and because I love this album so much, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I got the red one from Amazon too. This was the first one, and then I recently got the bone one. I ordered it from Discogs. That one's signed, and when it arrived to me, it was literally soaking wet, and I was so fucking pissed because the package clearly stated fragile, but our post office, I swear to God, takes that as a challenge because this was dunked in water. Like, I poured water, like it came in a dust sleeve. I poured water out of it. So the whole top corner is
she's
all
showing us
dog-eared and wilted, and the inside sleeve too is the same. It's all wilted and water stained, and I was so fucking pissed. And the seller
but the signature
Oh yeah,
the signature is intact, right? It's not
Signature's on the
smudged.
other
Yeah.
side, and it looks very nice. So, there's that consolation. I didn't pay a ton for it, but, we have friends in the UK that we've mentioned before. We're friends Rich and John, and they always look out for stuff for us that we can't find. Like, I just got something super exciting that I'm not going to talk about right now. And, and so they always look out for us. So they helped with this release information because it was hard to figure out. There's 3 different versions. Some were signed, some weren't signed. Like, I couldn't figure it out. So them being the historians that they are, they have I think Rich sent a entire list of how it was distributed and all this stuff. So we pieced it together by that. But speaking of him, he packs stuff to come to the United States like I've never seen before. Like his packaging could literally fall off the back of a plane in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and still wash up on the shores of the East Coast of the United States and be deliverable and perfect when it arrives. So
And in mint
100 years in the
condition.
future.
in a mint
Yeah.
condition. So,
As someone who's received some pretty rare albums that I was
Right.
very worried about arriving in good condition, I can attest to that.
Yes.
I've never seen anyone put as much care into packing.
it's amazing. So, thank you, Rich, for that. And I don't expect everyone to live up to that expectation, but I also don't expect for an album to arrive soaking freaking wet. So anyway,
That's not okay.
that's my sad story.
I just bought a new goodie earlier today, and every time I pick up a new album now from Discogs, I just pray that it's not your experience.
Yeah, yours
Sorry,
is coming
Jesse, but
from
you're my cautionary tale.
yours is coming from Sweden, right? That should be okay.
Yeah, from Sweden. This, for Matt, was a big hit. He's not a mainstream artist. He's not making music for the mainstream. But this album was a pretty big mainstream success. It peaked at number 31 in the UK, which is 7 spots higher than Television Themes had charted a few years prior. And actually hit number 7 in Scotland. A lot of that is probably attributable to Matt's higher name recognition. He was starting to become more prominent as an actor around this time, which we'll talk about a little later. But I think it also just speaks to how his music was starting to resonate with a broader audience.
So let's just start at the beginning. When Matt was describing Phantom Birds in an article in the Yorkshire Post, September 17th, 2020, he says, "I just write from the heart. I wanted to do a simplified recording project. Unlike a lot of albums in the past, which have included lots of instruments, lots of overdubs, sometimes experimental song structures, I just wanted to do very simple verse, chorus, solo, get out type things with very few instruments."
One constant thread in most of the press and interviews that Matt did around this album was his talk about Bob Dylan as an influence, and particularly Bob Dylan's John Wesley Harding album. In an interview on September 22nd, 2020, Clash magazine asked him, "You named Dylan's work in Nashville as a key influence on the record, and there's a definite taste of it. What drew you to this reference point?" He answered, "What it was is that it's a big influence in terms of production. Just because in the past I've been quite flamboyant in terms of production and how many tracks I've used and solos and instrumental bits. All this kind of stuff. I've been keen on the complex side of composition, whereas with this, I wanted to do the opposite thing. I wanted to run in the opposite direction, really, in terms of there being 3 instruments at once that you ever hear on this album. And the drums are panned hard right, with the acoustic guitar hard left, and then the vocals straight down the middle, which was the technique that was used for John Wesley Harding and a couple of others. It's a very naive way of recording, panning things hard right. I mean, the Beatles used to do it too, but I've always liked it. Some people hate it, just having all the drums on one side and the bass right on the other side or whatever. But I've always liked it because it's different, so that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to strip it all back. That was the main aim."
Again, from the Yorkshire Post, it says, as far as his interest in Dylan goes, Barry says it's largely confined to the singer-songwriter's first decade. He said, "I didn't keep up after that much, yet he did admire his recent record, Rough and Rowdy Ways." He said, "I've got his latest album, which I think is great," he says, "but like most people, it's really 60s and 70s Dylan."
Matt says in a BBC 6 music interview from September 17th, 2020, apparently he was doing a lot of promotion that day. "Normally, I just fill everything up with loads of overdubs, because that's what you do when you record on your own. So I stopped myself from doing that. and just let everything kind of breathe, really, and sit on its own. He went on to say, that was exactly what I was trying to step back from, because what can happen is, because there's no one there to say, I think that's enough guitar dubs, mate. You just keep going. Do you know what I mean? And before you know it, there's like 200 guitars left of center and 900 keyboards. So just to stop that from happening, I set out a mini sort of manifesto for this one.
The 200 guitars and the 900 keyboards.
I just love that, and we'll get here, but immediately after this album, he released one that pretty much had 200 guitars and 900 keyboards all over it.
Like,
he just couldn't stay away.
Now let's bring back all of my instruments. I'm going to use everything.
Let's throw it all at it.
But he owned it.
Yeah. Speaking of instruments.
Speaking of instruments, as usual, Matt plays most of the instruments on this album. Not as many as usual as most of his work, but he does get credit for the acoustic guitar, 12-string guitar, electric guitar, and bass guitar, as well as piano, organ, mellotron, and harmonica. In addition, 2 new collaborators play with Matt on this album. The legendary B.J. Cole, known for his work with Elton John, T-Rex, and many, many other people, plays pedal steel guitar. Drums are covered by Craig Blundell. Talking to Brooklyn Vegan in an interview a bit after this album's release on May 13, 2021, Matt talked about his experience of working with B.J. Cole. He told the interviewer, "It was as much a thrill for me because I knew that I wanted the pedal steel sound. And the best guy that anyone can think of is B.J. Cole. So I said to the label, can we find somebody like B.J. Cole to do the pedal steel? Because I can't play pedal steel. You've got to be brilliant. It isn't something that you can basically wing." To Acid Jazz's credit, they said, why don't you just ask him? And then within an hour, he was involved. And it added such an atmosphere of that whole album, I think. He went on to say, it's like people say, if you can't afford a string section, then get a pedal steel. And it's true. It has very similar dynamics.
Being interviewed on the Beige Green Room podcast by Steve First by his pseudonym, Lenny Beige.
Persona. Alter ego.
Alter ego. On October 6, 2020, speaking of B.J. Cole, Lenny Beige says, did you have an idea of what you wanted him to play? So when you send him the tracks, is there a kind of sketch of his part that you want him to kind of realize? Matt said there is, and I did a really bad impression of what I wanted him to do. And then I sent that to him, and he immediately either just deleted it, or he might have listened to it, and I don't think he'd have used it for much guidance. But it was the only way that I could, convey what I wanted. Just to point out, this is like similar to what he's done in the past. Like, this is similar to how they recorded Milkbone. Matt just kind of lays down a basic track, and then the musician who is playing that part, goes from there. And, they kind of have an idea of what he wants, and then they do it for real.
In a departure from TV themes, this is a very personal album. Matt noted in several interviews that the subject matter was mostly drawn from changes and transitions in his personal life around this time.
In an interview with the Yorkshire Post, in Small Hours, his last album of self-penned songs, Barry reflected on some life-changing events. Phantom Birds picks up the theme. That's going to happen if you release an album, say, every 3 or 4 years. There's going to be changes in your life after that time, so they're going to be reflected, he explains. If I was making an album every year, they wouldn't be so poignant, or I wouldn't have as much to grab from. I can only write what I know, or what I find interesting, really. Love and relationships form a consistent theme in Phantom Birds. Barry says, it's a response to anything that's poignant that's happened within the last time that I wrote anything. I just write from the heart, from experience, I suppose. I find that more satisfying than a kind of fictitious boy meets girl type of thing. I'm never satisfied with anything like that. To be honest, I'd rather either do something completely surreal using cut up, that sort of stuff, or something personal. I'm not really interested in between.
Building on that theme, the now defunct October magazine, which was an online magazine focused on beer storytelling, noted in an interview with Matt dated November 6, 2020, that there's a lot of heartbreak and lost love on this record. They asked, is that something that you're borrowing from Nashville Skyline, or is this rooted in your real life? Matt replied, they're in my real life. I don't storytell in songs. I've done it a long, long time ago, but I just don't find it satisfying. I have to write about personal things, because when I look back, I know what these songs are about. It's the only form of diary that I'll keep. I might shroud it in imagery, but it's mostly told as is. The interviewer asked him, you're not very open about your personal life. and the songwriting here is crouched in idioms and refrains. It is simply written, but there's still a level of decoding that needs to happen. Matt replied, "I don't really want to lift the curtain at all, but you have to. In terms of music, it's probably the only time I do."
Again, from the Beige Green Room podcast, Lenny Beige says, and of course there's a closeness that this world has brought to, in terms of communication between artist and listener and so forth. And it's easier to kind of communicate with the artists. I suppose the distance isn't as great as it was back in the day. Matt said, well, that's up to you, though. That depends on how much you as an artist, make yourself available and how high you lift that curtain, so to speak. The interviewer says, "How high do you lift that curtain, Matt Berry?" And he said, "About as much as my big toe." Which I don't necessarily...
Heartbreaking for us.
It is heartbreaking for us. I think anybody that knows his past Twitter history, it wasn't always like that. It is now. And I think that he reveals a whole lot more in this album than he thinks he does. But we'll get to that.
It's very personal. It's a very personal album.
So speaking of transitions in Matt's life, one of the most notable was the runaway success of What We Do in the Shadows, a little show you might have heard of, which took Matt to Toronto for filming 3 months out of the year. Suddenly, Matt was famous in North America on a level he had never been previously, and was spending more time away from his new home in the English countryside. In an interview with Clash magazine, the interviewer noted that the transition to working in Canada had posed some real challenges in recording this album.
So the interviewer asks, "If you're away filming, it must make those moments all the more precious." Matt says, "It does, but I always ask them to provide me with an acoustic guitar if they can. So if I'm staying in rented accommodation, if I'm away, then I've always got an acoustic guitar. The laptop's got Logic on it, so I can record anything. I can make pretty comprehensive demos that way, and it doesn't matter where I am, because I have to have my mic with me for voiceovers. So I've usually got stuff with me, so I can always work. I don't have the full studio as such, but I can get back to it."
In another BBC Six Music interview from July 4th, 2020, the interviewer asks, "What are you like when you're recording? Do you sort of clock on for a regular shift, or do you get lost like some mad scientist for days on end?" Matt says it's like exactly like that. It's a bit like sort of Frankenstein's monster. Like I can come in here and then not realize that a few days have passed because if you get into it, you can't stop sometimes. So this brings me directly back to when we interviewed Phil, because he says he just knocks out things so quickly. And I mentioned that, you think he might have some ADD, because that's like a thing about ADD, because you just get lost. You just, once you're in something and you get into the mode, you just lose all track of time. So
that ADHD hyperfocus.
It is a real thing. So that brings us to the actual music.
I'm very excited. Everybody's giving everything 5 out of 5, right?
That remains to be seen. We'll, So, clearly this is a breakup album. I don't think anybody had to be told that. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, who the hell broke this guy's heart? Like, it was like really devastating to listen to. It was, he's gone through some shit.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty telling that he actually owned up to that in some of the interview quotes that we read. Because he's usually so purposefully evasive about what his songs are about.
Right.
And the fact that he even said that was in his own life, without going into details, it's just hard to miss.
Right, exactly. The first track is Something in My Eye. And Matt said in a V13, which I believe is just an online article, July 7th, 2020, Barry commented on the lead track saying, "This is a song about putting a brave face on, telling everyone you're fine when in reality you're not at all. Not necessarily something you always hear from a male perspective." I really love that.
I do too. I think for someone like Matt, who is a very traditional British guy in many ways, this is a big deal. This is a really vulnerable song. Speaking again to Clash magazine, they asked him, "Something in My Eye" is a very hard-on-sleeve way to open the album. They noted mental health amongst men is still all too rarely spoken about. And he responded, "With blokes my sort of age, it still is. I think maybe less so with the younger generations. I think they're more confident in owning up when it's all gone tits up, or, they don't feel great about something. Whereas with my generation, that was never encouraged, or it was just never seen. You never had a sportsman admit that he suffers from depression and breaks down and all this kind of stuff. It was just never done. You never heard anything about it. So that's what it's about. It's about the difference in my generation and the younger generations, I suppose.
It's because Generation X, we're like the generation that nothing pphases us. We just roll with the punches and we're all good. I mean, we all suffer from crippling anxiety, but we just keep it in.
And depression.
Prozac Nation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You said jump. I asked how high. Cool it jets. Just something in my eye. But here I am, grown. I've come so far alone.
This is a really good example. If you listen to this album with headphones, and I can't stress this enough, you should always listen to Matt's albums with headphones. This is one where he was talking about before with the instruments panning. And it starts off panned all the way to the left, and then the drums come in a second or two later, panned all the way to the right, and you can hear his vocals right in the center.
This is such a strong start to the album. It's just a beautiful piece about male pride and an inability to admit to the sadness and emotion that they're feeling. I just love this song. And I love Matt for writing it. I think it's going to sound silly, but I think it was like brave.
Yeah, I was going to say, I said something similar. Like, I hate that he was so hurt, but I love that he didn't hesitate to show his emotions and vulnerability in the lyrics. He was hurt. Like, the song is like he's hurt, but he's passing off his tears as something in his eye because he's trying to keep a strong exterior when, really he's not. And it's very clear that he's not. I also really like the lyric, you said jump, I asked how high. I feel like that one lyric that starts off the entire album, basically sets up the premise for the entire album. Like, this is a very lopsided relationship when one person is basically like all in and the other person was maybe playing a part or manipulating the other person's emotions. So this is really like a perfect breakup song.
Yeah, that's very astute, Jesse. I like that. I never thought of that before. That's very good.
Thanks.
You should make a podcast.
Oh my gosh, that's a really good idea.
I will start off by saying I really love this album. I don't love this song. I get that it was a big deal for Matt to open up as much as he did. And you definitely hear the contrast calling back to, something like Witch Hazel or Kill the Wolf, where he is doing a lot of storytelling. This is obviously kind of a deeper, more vulnerable level of songwriting for him. But to me, it still feels kind of generic in a way that the album's best songs don't. What I think makes a lot of the tracks on this album really work is the specificity in the lyrics. You really feel, even if you don't know all the details, it tells a story. And I just don't get that with this song. I do like how it feels like a mission statement for the rest of the albums, kind of like you named. Just musically, it really showcases that pedal steel, the organ, the reverb on the acoustic. His vocals are really kind of impassioned, slightly raspy. You hear this over and over on the rest of the album. But as an intro song, it's a little bit of a non-starter for me.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a good setup song.
Yeah, I think it's like...
I think it really
it
sets
gave me
the stage.
chills.
Yeah.
Courtney, it gave me chills when I first heard it.
There are songs on this album that give me major chills. This isn't one.
This isn't one of them.
So
So
Okay.
how many stars do you give this one, Courtney?
I don't dislike it. It's just kind of middle of the road to me, so I'll give it 3 out of 5.
Gotcha.
Oh my god.
I gave
Oh my
it 4. I think it's a solid 4 for me.
I gave it a 4.7 out of 5 because it is so amazing. It wasn't quite a 5, like I'm being fair. It was so close.
That's so funny.
Now I want to ask what keeps it from being a 5. Where did those 0.3 points come in?
I'll be
What's
honest
missing?
with you, Courtney. There are a lot of 5s that I have on this album. A lot of 5s. And I had to keep it real that they all can't be 5s.
It's kind of like, she's kind of like Hollywood handshaking it. Like in Bake Off.
What does that mean? Hold on. What is that?
Oh my god. You don't watch Bake
I don't
Off?
know that term either.
Oh my gosh. people not watch Bake Off? So Paul Hollywood, like his thing is, if you're like absolutely perfect and you blow his mind with something, he'll give you a handshake. It's called the Hollywood handshake. He is very stingy with his handshakes. He does not like to give out handshakes. So if it is absolutely flawlessly perfect, he will give you a handshake. And it is like the biggest honor ever. So this song to you apparently was not Hollywood handshake perfect, but it's pretty damn close. Like he'll praise it. He'll praise it the shit out of it and say, yeah, it was really good, nothing bad. And then he'll turn around and walk away and not put out his hand.
And you're like, oh, I needed the handshake.
Just
okay,
needed that extra 0.3 and you would have gotten that Hollywood handshake. This is the crossover nobody asked for, right? The Matt Berry music, Great British Bake Off.
I suspect there's a lot of people who are listening very excitedly right now. I'm just confused.
Yes. In this country of the United States of the America, it's called the Great British Baking Show. Because Pillsbury owns the rights to the term Bake Off, so they cannot call it the Great British Bake Off here. If you go to Netflix, if you've watched it on PBS, it is called the Great British Baking Show. So a bit of trivia, they have to do that because Pillsbury owns the rights to Bake Off. That's your useless trivia of the day.
I never knew. That blew my mind a little bit.
Anyway.
Jesse.
Moving on to You Danced All Night. Yes, You Danced All Night.
So, in a BBC Six music interview, the interviewer asks, it's not bad. Well, because there are tracks on the album like Danced All Night, which is lovely. But it's also got that kind of a tonal quality to the chords. You don't often hear a lot in popular music, I don't think. Matt says, well, that's a good spot. No, that's a good spot. Because with songs like that are sparsely recorded, where it's just an acoustic guitar, bass, and drums, they're usually quite kind of formulaic, and the chords don't stray from, your normal kind of triads. But what I wanted to do was do that, except put in a chord that scoops it up and takes it into the air.
So I'll confess, go for it. I don't really know what he's talking about in that quote. I don't hear anything atonal. To me, this sounds very melodic. I don't have the musician's ear that Matt has.
That's one for the music.
So I'll take his word on it.
When trust has gone, no reason to keep on. This circus has gone south. Pull my head from the lion's mouth. I heard you danced all night. Gotta do what you feel's right. Sounds like you're doing fine. Crouch down, no goodbye. What the hell was that sound? Sounded close, sounded loud. Like a horse that jumped his car. It was the sound of my broken heart.
I literally say that this is a very simple song. It repeats a lot.
Maybe.
I think it does. Like, it's a wonderful song in a breakup album. Like, if I'm ever single against my will, I'm gonna listen to this. And, like, I don't find that there's anything super gripping about it. I don't know.
I mean, I think just the fact that this song is basically about hearing about your ex right after a breakup when they clearly moved on without any regret or hesitation, and you're still like in an amazing amount of pain. So, I mean, I feel like, everybody's lived through a breakup. Everybody has been there. Everybody kind of knows what this is about, what that feeling is like. I think the lyrics on this song are super poetic. I love the harmonica on this. Can I just not express enough how much I love the harmonica on this album?
She loves the harmonica.
I wish he would find a way to integrate harmonica into his other albums. He's good at it. And you're right, it provides just this sense of harmony that really adds so much texture and depth. This song kind of works for me for the opposite of why Something in My Eye doesn't as much. And for the reason, Jesse, that you touched on, the lyrics feel so specific. They tell a story. Even if we don't know that full story, I suspect a lot of us, certainly know that I have been in the experience of going through a breakup and seeing photos of your ex on social media having a fantastic time. And it's just the biggest gut punch there is. I agree with you that the lyrics have kind of a poetry to them. I really especially love, there's a repeated line about pulling my head from the tiger's mouth, and then the second repetition, he says the lion's mouth. I thought a lot about what that means. The best explanation I could think of is that he's out of danger. Like, the uncertainty of this relationship is over.
Ooh, I like that.
Even as much as he might miss this person, there's a sense of relief that the turmoil is done. Something I noticed listening with headphones is that it's subtle, but you can kind of hear his breath during the instrumental bridge. Like, this feels really intimate. It feels like we're being let into something very personal, and I think that we are.
I totally agree.
You just blew my mind, because I've listened to the song so many times, and when I was trying to kind of like make my thoughts of this album, and I kept thinking of like, I love the lines, like, pulled my head from the lion's / tiger's mouth, and I was like, what does that mean? And you just said it, and I was like, that's exactly what it means. That just really resonated with me, and you are very good at this. You're very good at this.
Why, thank you. I'll blame my otherwise completely pointless English major for my ability to pick apart lyrics.
Can we
It
circle
was for
back?
this.
Can we circle back
Yeah.
to the harmonica for a second? Did he learn to play the harmonica, you think, just for this album? Because for whatever reason, that really blew my mind. Not like the harmonica is a particularly difficult instrument to play, but like, did he learn to play it just for this album? Did he already know how to play the harmonica? Did he just pick it up and he was like, I'm good at the harmonica too? Like, how does this happen? I need to know.
My guess is on that last one.
He's good at everything.
I
I
picked
think
it up.
he just picked it up and learned
Yeah.
it probably in a weekend or something.
What an asshole.
Whatever.
Went through a
can
Dylan
do
phase
anything.
and decided I'm going to learn harmonica
Yeah,
too.
I
I mean, the
swear
guy
to
plays
God.
accordion. That's still one of my burning questions, is how the hell did you learn to play accordion? Where did you pick up accordion in your free time? He just...
I don't know.
he just does it.
He's an enigma. So, yeah, you danced all night. I gave this one 4 stars. I think it's solid.
Yeah, dude,
I
me
would agree
too.
with that.
4 to
4
5. It is
stars.
solid. Oh my god!
We agree? Is this the second time ever?
Oh my god!
I don't know, but this is a
Did
very rare occurrence.
I'm
Did we
cherish
just
this
become best
moment.
friends?
We will mark this occasion. We have agreed.
I don't think it's gonna happen again.
Are you
I really
unanimous?
don't think it's ever gonna happen again.
4 stars.
Yeah.
Shocked. Oh my goodness.
There's a song later on this album that I think might be a unanimous 5, but we'll see.
I
We'll
know
see.
one
Oh
for
my
sure that's not
god!
gonna be.
Oh, you guys, it better be the one I'm thinking, or we're in trouble.
Let's move on to Phantom
Moving
Birds.
on, Phantom Birds, the
The
album
title
track.
song. Yes, yes, yes.
Phantom birds in the sky, they follow me. I don't know why. Silver moon, come back soon. I love you. I should retire, but I'm staying on. Whistle blow, but I'm playing on. One more time, then I guess I'm gone. I better lay it on. Ghostly sounds in my home, they're watching me when I'm alone. I have no fear, I know they're here, I know it's you. Had the best come and been and gone. Well, the rest just keep hanging on. Who is left from the pantheon? Let me ramble on.
So this is a little bit of a shift after I kind of think of Something in My Eye and You Danced All Night as companion pieces. They both have sort of a similar pace, similar sound. And Phantom Birds it's more of a ballad. It kind of slows down the pace. It actually feels to me like the auditory equivalent of pacing around your house. It's got this shuffling beat, something that I didn't notice until I kind of did the close deep dive listen for this podcast, is he's actually kind of echoing his background vocals I believe it's the second verse in particular. You can kind of hear him humming in the background, and it's barely perceptible. But he talks about ghostly sounds in his home, and he really found a way to musically capture that sort of eerie, ghostly feeling
Mhm.
without being too on the nose about it. Musically, it's a meditation on loneliness. He talks about kind of hearing these ghostly sounds and feeling like someone is watching him or with him. He also has some interesting lyrics in the chorus. He says, "Have the rest come and been ungone, who is left from the pantheon." And it didn't initially seem to me like it really fit with the rest of the song. And then I started thinking about what might that mean to him. He's talked so much in interviews, many interviews that we've read, about being a fan of this kind of classic older music. You know, a lot of his musical heroes are people like Mike Oldfield, Jean-Michel Jarre, kind of older guys. And he's placing himself in that context as like part of their lineage. So there's a lot going on in this song, more than I initially thought.
That's funny. So that line, it's have the best come and been and gone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really beautiful line, but I interpreted it completely differently. To me, it's kind of like, will he find love again, or has he already had the best relationship he'll have? So I'm still sticking with this whole relationship theme. The ghostly sounds in his home, is that like a memory of a recent relationship? Like, are they still just going through the motions? I like what you said about like that shuffling around his house kind of feeling, because that's sort of the vibe that I got too. You know, it's kind of like something on replay over and over again. Like, is he still just vibing what was going on before that person left? And it's like a ghostly reminder now. Or, you know, with him, this could also be a literal reference to ghosts in his home. So
Yeah.
we just
He does
don't know.
think on the back cover, there's a line you kind of mentioned briefly, his dedications at the back of the album. And that back cover starts with, "All my love to everyone who collectively inspired this album, be you human, animal, natural, seasonal, or unearthly." I kind of got stuck on that unearthly inspiration.
Mm-hmm. So
This is the guy who
has a ghost
talked about-
detector.
He owns a ghost detector. He told, I believe it was Chat
Okay.
Magazine, that
Yeah.
he felt something get pushed off his shelf as he was writing.
Morgana
This
Robinson said that he used the ghost detector in his kitchen and got so freaked out they weren't allowed to go in his kitchen anymore because he thought it was
I've
haunted.
got so many questions about
So
that.
many questions. So many questions.
We should try to get her on the
Right.
show.
But yeah, I love the vocals on this one. I think they're very raw and very emotional sounding. This is also a song that's really shrouded in imagery, but not so much to me that it loses the complete meaning of the song. I mean, unless I have the meaning of the song completely wrong. To me, it's like you still know what it's about, even though only he understands the true meaning behind every reference. Although you and I both interpreted it very differently, so I could be completely wrong about that.
So let me tell you how I interpret it, girls. So when I listen to it, I'm like, it has like an ethereal kind of theme to me. And it's very much, I think it's about ghosts, just like 100,000,000%. And just literally putting into kind of some kind of like figurative kind of talk about, you know, when he's just saying everything in this song is about ghosts. And I love this song so much. Like, it's the title song of the album. And I think the whole Phantom Birds thing is very much kind of the ghosts that haunt you and the kind of twilight almost of your life, like the good times they go, and the pantheon, that's talking about the Roman pantheon, I'm assuming. And I just always, I find it has like a haunting kind of vibe to it. And it's just very like, it's so matte. The song is just like so matte in every way.
Yeah, so what did you give this one? You're still trying to decide.
Did you give
I would give this one another solid 4.
Oh, okay.
I had to think about that. So one of the
Okay.
one of the peeks behind the curtain of how I do this is I never assign my ratings in advance. It's always off the cuff. And this one, the more I talk about it, the more I like it. So 4.25.
Ooh,
That's my final answer.
very specific.
I love it. I love that.
I gave this one a 5. I really love this one.
I did too. I love this song so much. Fist bump Jesse. You didn't see it, but we did it.
Feel so
Sorry,
left out.
Courtney. You can't with your 4.25.
You're pretty close.
We
though. 4.25
We
is
should have
really
done it
strong
last
number.
time. The whole thing of like phantom birds, it's a little bit haunting, a little bit
Birds keep coming up over and over in this album. Like by my count, at least
Yeah.
4 songs.
Yeah,
Making
I didn't
explicit
think
mention
about
of
that.
birds.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Including
He has a
moving.
this
whole
next
song
one.
about birds.
Yeah, including the next one. Moonlight Flit.
Flee the nest, painful glow. I can't look down, it's too far below. My mother's gone, so off I go. Like the wind, like the moon in the sky. I'm flying for the first time tonight. Let me show the world I've arrived. I was scared, don't care who knows. Now I feel I own the world. The sky's so blue, the field's so gold. Like the wind, like the moon in the sky. I'm flying for the first time tonight. Let me have the time of my life.
Let me go back. The cast of What We Did in the Shadows did a Zoom panel interview for Paley Fest in 2021. We'll post the link for it. It's on YouTube. It's a really good panel interview from what I can remember. In that panel, Matt mentions that he wrote 3 songs for Phantom Birds while he was in Toronto filming, but he only named 2 of the songs. So this was not one of the ones that he named. We'll go into those a little bit later. Even before he mentioned that he wrote 2 of the songs in Toronto, this song has always stood out to me that maybe it was about him going off to film What We Do in the Shadows. And I really wonder if this is the 3rd song that was written. It makes me think of him, and he literally says he leaves the nest. So it makes me think of him being away from home. He mentions the lyric, can't look down. He's afraid of heights, flying for the first time tonight. He does a lot of wire work in What We Do in the Shadows. Let me show the world I've arrived. What We Do in the Shadows was his first big series on an international level. So like, if you think about it lyric by lyric, they all match up to the context of maybe What We Do in the Shadows. And even Brave Young Bird, It's Time to Go, another reference to Bird. That makes me think that maybe before he left, before he agreed to do this, he was given a pep talk by his mom or dad, maybe his uncle, who we know he's close with. Maybe he was having second thoughts or he was nervous. I don't know if I just fit it to be about his time going off to Canada to film What We Do in the Shadows and about it being that experience, because that's what it automatically made me think of, or if it really was, or if it really is about that. So my burning question for Matt, I have 2 burning questions on this one. Is this the 3rd song that was written in Canada? And is it about what I think it's about?
I remember, Jesse, you putting forth that theory like years ago, like before we knew each other well. I remember you posting it in a Facebook group, and it was like a light bulb went off over my head. It's like, that makes so much sense.
It really does.
And I can't
fit. Yeah.
think of anything else now when I listen to this song.
Sorry, my bad.
No, that's a compliment. It totally adds a layer of context.
Yeah. So
I don't know if it's the right context, but, context is context, I guess.
you guys, it is so good we're doing this, all 3 of us, because you guys are like, yeah, like, this is so figurative, and this is, like, a metaphor for his life, and I'm like, he fucking loves birds, and I fucking love birds, and, like, I watch all these Nest cams, and I bet Matt is watching these Nest cams, and, like, I literally, like, like, I'm not an idiot, like, I get that, like, I get what you're saying, and I've, like, thought of it, but I'm like, no, man, this fucking song is about birds, like, just straight up. He's like fucking, now he's like out in the countryside, and he's like, man, these birds are awesome, and he's just like watching birds, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking write a song, I'm gonna write a badass song about birds, and honestly, this is a badass song about birds, like, if it's about, like, like, that, you guys are so smart, like, that
I have no
completely
idea
makes
if that's
sense.
right or not. It just, to me, that's what I think.
But
of.
it makes, like,
It does
Matt
make
is
sense.
so smart that he would be like, this song is about birds for the idiot.
Oh, God.
but it's about my flight into, like, you know, superstardom and, like, getting out of it for anybody else who's, you know, smart. Like, it's just, it's a, come on, guys, it's a perfect song.
It might
so
be.
good.
If for all we know, it is a song literally about birds. We don't know until we're told otherwise.
That's my burning question.
Until
for
Matt starts emailing us and answering some of these burning questions. You could
Although,
be right.
if he was smart, he'd be like, Jesse's right. I am super deep, and this song is not just about birds.
He's going to take credit for meeting. That wasn't the actual meeting.
Exactly.
I will say one kind of piece of evidence in Jesse's column, not to go too much away from this album, but, you know, you can't not listen to Phantom First as a companion piece, and we'll do a deep dive later, some point down the line. But it has a whole song about going to Toronto, right? It has a song that's, like, explicitly about going to film. So it was on his mind. We know that this was something that was pretty impactful for him.
It's a big deal.
Really pisses me off
It
that
is.
he only named 2 of the 3 songs.
Yeah,
I
like,
know.
Why?
I remember watching that interview and being so excited to hear the third.
Yeah,
and it was just
what's the third song? Because I was waiting for him to say Moonlight Flit was the third song, and he never fucking
You're
said
like,
the
I
third
know
song.
it is.
So
I
now
know
I'm
it is.
stuck with this.
Okay, we need to make sure we're writing this down so that if God forbid, I don't think it's ever going to happen.
No, he's
but if we
listening.
ever
He's
meet up with
listening.
Matt,
We know he's listening, and he's making a list.
just, yeah. He's doing the list. We don't have to do
Right.
the list. Matt's like, has a list. He's like, okay.
To
we need
quote
know this.
Courtney, Matt, if you're listening.
So
He's not.
I did not realize until Jessie caught it that I've said that on apparently every episode so far. When she messaged that to me, I found a copy of the original cover of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And with my like shitty Android photo editing skills, changed it to Are You There, Matt? It's Me, Courtney.
The greatest thing ever.
It's really
Seriously.
good. I've seen it. It's
It's your
really good.
catchphrase. I'm gonna get t-shirts
Yeah.
made.
Oh, we should. That would be like,
We'll go viral.
that'd be so meta.
Totally will.
Like,
We'll put our QR
yeah.
code on the back.
When
Courtney,
you're
did you
reading
have
this.
anything else to say about this one?
I think you guys said a lot of it. Just musically, this is a burst of energy after the previous 3 songs, which are all good songs to various degrees, but they're not high energy. This one just feels joyful. It sounds fun. The organ in the middle kind of has this loose, jammy feel. It
like
might have
that.
actually been
Yeah.
improv, who knows? But it sounds soaring. It sounds like taking flight. I wonder if there's a little bit of an Easter egg where he talks about the sky so blue, the field so gold. As soon as I heard rainbow, I thought that was a callback.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's a coincidence, but yeah, it just feels very rooted in his history and his career, and it's just a breath of fresh air after the 3 songs that went before.
Agreed. It's
I
uplifting.
also agree. Yes, I definitely agree with that.
If he
what do
is
you give it,
listening,
Courtney?
He might be just cracking up right now, like you guys are reading so much into this that was never there.
It's like,
He
it's about
didn't-
fucking birds.
He wrote these
It's about
songs and he
birds.
didn't think this much into it. So funny.
Which is fair. I get it. Yeah.
So I gave this one 4 stars. I really love it, but it gets a point off because I don't know if this is the 3rd song, and I need to know.
That feels
No,
unfair.
It's not unfair.
Courtney, what did you give it?
3.75.
I gave it a 4. We were almost like, again,
We were
on the same
super,
wavelength.
super close.
So close, though, guys. Like an elbow bump. Like,
Yeah.
it was so close.
Moving on to Man of Doom. This is also from October magazine. Matt says this is one of the 2 songs on the albums that are cut ups. Everything else has a theme or is about a situation that either occurred to me or I witnessed or a celebration of things that I love, where Man of Doom and the final track I use cut ups. I made a list of all the different man of phrases and then just put them together in order and scrawled them around and try to make them relevant. So something like House of Fools, I was in a show called House of Fools, then that had something to do with the next one. So there's a link. They're not all put there carelessly. They're put there for different reasons. Imagery, sound effect, all sorts of things. With that song, I also wanted to have 2 melodies being performed at the same time. That was something that I'd heard other people done and never got around to doing myself. Man of Doom was a great experiment for doing that.
Man of doom, man of fire, man of faith, man of power, will of steel, will of God, will of man, will of dog, head of goat, head of feet, head of state, head of sheep, less of me, more of you, less of one, more of two. Day of rest, day of dead, day of fear, day of dread, pack of dogs, pack of lies, pack of cards, pack of pies, house of lords, house of fun, house of fools, house of none, man of doom, man of fire, man of faith, man of power.
Yeah, I love the juxtapositions in the lyrics. Definitely, even without hearing his explanation, you can hear that he put some thought into these lyrics that at first glance or first listen kind of sound random. You know, for example, head of state, head of sheep. There's a lot of parallels, a lot of opposites. This is a song that I think is kind of deeper than it initially appears. You know, it does superficially sound kind of nonsensical, but in the context of this album, which is, you know, definitely a breakup album, it kind of replicates the feeling of racing thoughts, just kind of coursing through your head. The chorus that kicks in is all about this relationship that just ended and how both partners tried to kind of make each other happy and tried to elicit these emotions in each other. And it just repeats. It feels like it's floating above the rhyming nonsense phrases, like it's impossible to tune out. The vocals feel increasingly frantic as it starts to repeat. There's like a sense of urgency. And when the chorus drops in, when that kind of melody that he mentioned drops in around 52 seconds in, it just feels kinetic.
Yeah, I agree with so much of that. I also said it's kind of like a stream of consciousness sort of song. It's almost like a rhyming game. And I don't know much of this, you know, I'm sure the symbolism really means something to him. It might not really mean anything. I mean, he does say that there's meaning behind it, but I can't figure out most of it. The first time you hear that chorus, it's in the background. So, you know, that goes with both of the melodies happening at the same time. And I agree. It sounds like the chorus, it's a relationship that's either just not working or doomed, like from the title. Each person is kind of trying to change the other to fit the mold of what they want, and it's just not working. Oh, and there's a really cool organ solo in the middle. I really love that.
There's a great organ solo.
Yeah.
Musically, I really like the song a lot, but lyrically, I think it's just really messy. And I agree. I think it is frantic sounding, and I think it's probably purposefully frantic sounding. But I don't feel like the lyrics and the music necessarily fit. I think that the lyrics are just too out there, like only he knows what it means, and that's fine. I mean, he's the one that wrote the song. It doesn't have like a tempo where you can even, you can't even sing along with it, basically. You know what I mean?
Along,
like it's not a steady pattern. It's just all over the place, and that, I don't know, that bothers me.
No, I completely agree, because I like this song. It's like a crazy little song, and I love the experimentation that's clearly gone into this, where I honestly think he just sat there and, like, again, just was like, I'm making these things, and these things make sense, and oh, I'm now on this different, like, bridge, and I kind of respect the insanity of it, but it's not something that I really love. Like, I like listening to it, but overall it's kind of lacking.
So, I'm really into lyrics like you are. And for me, I've always been, ever since I was a little kid, I can hear a song twice and basically know all the lyrics to the song and sing along with it. This song I could probably listen to 7,000 times and still not catch all of the lyrics. Not because I can't understand what he's saying, just because I can never remember what order things go in, and it's like not rhythmic, and so I think partly that really, it's like, almost like an OCD thing. Like, I can't handle it.
It's a lot. The song has a lot going on.
It's not bad though. I mean, musically, I really do like it. It's just together, I don't think it necessarily works. So I gave this one 3 stars.
I gave it 4.5.
Whoa.
And it's funny is I like it for a lot of the reasons you dislike it. I like how busy it is. I like how chaotic and messy it is, because it's describing a relationship that was evidently pretty chaotic and messy, and it just captures that.
Yeah, that's really true.
And it's just catchy. It is super
It
catchy.
is catchy.
See, that's the part I don't
it's very
think it is.
catchy.
I don't think it's catchy. So I don't.
I get
yeah.
it in my head. But I don't know what the lyrics are.
And that's so annoying, right?
I know, but I'm like, mana doom, mana fire. I don't know, like, what is
And
in
then
the
what
next part?
comes next? I can't remember. I don't know. Drives me
But
crazy.
that's I totally get what you're saying because it doesn't come easily. Like it just lyrics like kind of flow to me and I can like pick them up, but I can't with this. But I just really like the experimentation of this song and how it is kind of just it's kind of nonsense. Like, and I do like that about it. And I gave it 4 out of 5.
Okay. All right. Are we
All right,
ready?
where's my love?
I always want to call it Where Is My Love, but it's not. Where's My Love?
What's the time? What's the time? What's the time? What's the time? Where's my shoes? Where's your shoes? Where's my shoes? Where's your shoes? Where's my hat? Where's your hat? Where's my hat? Where's your hat? Where's my face? Where's your face? Where's my face? Where's your face? Where's my mind? Where's your mind? Where's my mind? Where's my mind? Where's your love?
Yeah, this song is super short. It feels more like a partial thought than a fully formed song. I don't really have anything else to say about it other than that.
Yeah. So
That's pretty much exactly what I wrote. It feels more like a sketch than a full song.
Yeah.
okay,
Like a demo.
so I said this is one of the only songs on the album that I find falls very flat just all over. The music of the actual song, like it's good. Like I enjoy it.
Mhm.
You know, he put the very overly simple lyrics in a very like pleasing and catchy way, but it feels like an intermission to me. And I know he has an actual intermission on this album, but this song kind of feels like it should have been like an intermission.
Yeah, like an interlude. It's weird. It's,
Yeah.
but I agree with you that I
It
really
is an interlude.
Yeah, I do really like the music though. You're right.
I don't love this song. It's not one that I like go to at the end of a hard day or anything, but I get what it's doing and I kind of like that it's there. It feels really dazed, kind of drowsy. The pedal steel adds a lot to that. It feels like it's out of time and space. It's just kind of there without explanation with these sort of stream of consciousness, like almost nonsensical lyrics. And
They are nonsensical.
Yeah.
Where's my face? Where's your face?
in a
Where
way
is
that I
your
can't
face?
fully explain, it feels like a hangover. It feels like a hangover at the end of a relationship.
Yeah.
Just this feeling of like
Oh,
kind of
nice.
being disoriented.
I like that.
There's no meaning to it. There's no explanation to it. It's just like the love, the relationship, the happiness is lost without meaning. So
I like that.
it's hard to even articulate because
Mhm.
the song itself is such a sketch. But
Yeah.
I think that is why it's included, because it is a sketch and it just really does capture that feeling of like kind of not knowing what the hell is going on and whether you're coming or going. I do find it funny that this is the second song in his catalog where he can find his shoes.
No, this is not
Um,
even. He
called-
talks about shoes so often. I think there's mention of it in more than one song in the Small Hours.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember.
Just like die out.
I know that that's come up before because it stands out to me. Like how Bird stood out to you in this one.
Yeah.
The mention of his shoes stands out to me every time he mentions them. It's a theme.
And, he used to be such a shoe guy, and over the last year has been on a sandals streak.
I mean,
I wear a lot of sandals in the
if you're
summer,
wearing
so I don't
sandals
feel
in
like
the
I can
summer,
judge.
sandals in the summer are fine. I don't have a problem with it. I need to see his shoe closet because
This one, no.
I know
this
it's
one,
probably
yes.
gonna be super impressive, like a Melda Marcos type collection of shoes. And I feel like that's really respectable for a guy because most guys have like 3 pairs of shoes and they wear the same shoes over and over again. Whether I agree with his choices or not, I commend him for the options. He's a shoe guy.
I feel like
I
that's
can-
a place where
I
he
can-
splurges. Like, he's not a flashy dresser.
No,
but I
like
feel
even
he's
the
got some
sandals that
well-made
he's
shoes.
the sandals that he's wearing are Doc Marten sandals. It's not like those are that cheap, they're over $100.
And Adidas slides.
And Adidas
Yeah.
slides, right? Yeah. So
Not that
They
I
gotta be comfy.
spend a lot of time thinking about stuff
no,
like
we
that.
never.
God, no.
We never look at these things. We're much too professional. Anyways, so where's my love? I gave this one 2 stars. I don't love it.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 5.
3 for me, less because of the music and more because of, like I was talking about, just kind of the mindset that it represents on the album. It really captures a mood, but as far as something that you want to go back and listen to, it's not that.
Agreed.
that.
So, Take a Bow. He did a lot of interviews where people asked him about this song.
In that Clash magazine interview that we've already quoted a few times, the interviewer kind of noticed that it's a very pastoral record. They said you can picture the countryside idyls while listening to it. And Matt said, yeah, I live in the country now. I don't live full-time in London anymore. I get to see the moon, whereas I didn't for 20 years or for however long I lived in London. So all those things that people that do live in the country don't find a novelty, I did when I moved back.
And in a different Clash interview, it's actually not even an interview. It's kind of just about the release of this song, because this was a single.
Like a press release.
Yeah, it was like a press release. It's from July 28th of 2020. It says, about Take a Bow, Matt says, it's a simple song and one of sentiment, just listing and playing tribute to a list of things I love and enjoy for different reasons. The list includes family, animals, and the seasons, all very simple stuff.
Speaking to Sean Keaveney, we might be mangling that. If we are, forgive us. But
Sorry,
speaking
Sean,
to
for
BBC
Sean.
Six Music, he said it was written last year. This was an interview in September 2020, so it was written 2019. But it's just a minor, simple kind of celebration of simple things which I enjoy. That's all it is. It's like a personal thing. I never thought I'd be talking to you about it on the radio when I did it. I didn't even think, that it would make it onto the album.
From the Beige Green Room podcast, Take a Bow. I'm really glad you said that. It's a very touching song. Again, very simple. It's a name check song in terms of things that mean a lot to you. And then Matt says, but it's the simplest thing. It's a list of all the things that I like, that are kind of legal and don't, won't upset the horses or frighten the horses. Well, we look forward to the Matt Berry Take a Bow, the adult version. That will be the illegal version. Matt says, no chance.
I desperism want to hear that version.
Yeah.
Never heard that phrase before, won't upset the horses.
No.
I don't know if that's a Britism or a Mattism. I mean, I kind of get what he means, but I just love that image of him upsetting the horses.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
The man who mows the field, take a bow. Late September chill, take a bow. The foxes in the horse, take a bow. Take a bow. All that I hold dear, take a bow. Living without fear, take a bow. Take a bow. The market porter's beer, take a bow. The dogman Jack did, take a bow. Rabbits in the field, take a bow. Take a bow. Late night setting sun, take a bow. My father and my mum, take a bow. Laid back wait for two, take a bow. Take a bow.
This is one of the songs that Matt had mentioned in that Paley Fest interview we had discussed a little earlier, that he wrote in Canada, which I find fascinating because it's so closely tied and so specific to the English countryside. I had always assumed this was something he wrote on his front porch, but nope, he wrote it in Toronto. And
I have theories.
Assuming while feeling, a little bit of homesickness.
Oh, that was my theory.
Which makes sense, right? I mean, 3 months away from home is a long time. I'm assuming that's probably the longest he's been away from England up to that point.
I would imagine so.
My favorite part of this song is about the Muntjac deer. That is so adorable. There are no other songs out there that just mention the Muntjac deer.
It might
They're
be the
so
only one.
fucking cute. It has to be the only
I had
one.
to look up what Munchak deer were.
Oh my gosh.
When I
Oh,
heard
they're
this song,
so
I never heard
cute.
of them before.
They're so tiny. They're like this big, and they're so cute. I don't even know where they're native to. I know they have them in England wild, but I don't know if we even have them in the United States.
I don't
but-
know if they have them in England. I looked them
No,
up.
they do.
and
They do.
Like,
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
okay, because they were like from Africa or something. Like when I looked them up, they were like somewhere not in England, and I was like, oh, like Matt just appreciates like foreign deers like I do.
The reason I know that they have them in England is because I also follow Simon Pegg, and he does these stories on Instagram where he's walking his dogs in the woods, and he's got little dogs, and they go off sometimes and chase after things, and he was always like, oh, they're probably chasing a muntjac deer, or they'll find a carcass of a muntjac deer or something. So that's the only reason that I knew that they had muntjac deer
Oh my god!
in England.
I didn't know. Yeah, they're adorable. Like, thank you, Matt, because like that makes me happy. Like this song just makes me so happy. Like everything he's talking about. I have to say, again, this album came out during quarantine, so this kind of forced me to almost do my own take a bow and like appreciate my own things that like if you're not putting pen to paper, maybe you're not kind of like making these things as important as they actually are to you. So I like made a list of things that I would take a bow to, and I would like recommend everybody to do that because it's kind of meaningful, because like your important things is going to be very different from everybody else's, and I just think it's like a very beautiful song.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
I love that. That's a really good thing,
I do
especially
too.
during lockdown. Like we didn't lock down in
Yeah.
Florida, so I didn't know what that was
Oh
like. But
god.
yeah, I like that. I like that I hit you like right at that time, so you're like, let me take stock for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so this was definitely when I found out that he wrote it in Toronto, that was my first thought, was because it is so England centric that he must have been feeling very homesick when he wrote it.
Yeah.
And just like what you said, probably took stock and the things that he loved, maybe just to make him feel better. He also has a mention, you mentioned the muntjac deers, but he has a mention of the bats that fly above. So is that also a reference to his What We Do in the Shadows? Like
I never even thought of that.
cast members or the experience, or does he really think mats are amazing? Because I think bats are amazing. So, you know,
I think
do
mats
too.
are amazing too.
I think yes. So props either way on that one, whether it's a What We Do in
Yeah.
the Shadows reference or to actual bats, because I think they're very cool. But I really love this song. I love that it's just so simple, and it's just literally a list of all the things that he loves. And that's just really, really sweet and pure. And it's just such a departure from the rest of this album that I kind of get why he thinks that it may not have gone on this. I mean, it may have also just been too personal because it's a list of things that he loves, but I just really love the purity of the song. I think it's really a beautiful song.
I 100% agree. This song will always hold a special place for me because this was the first Matt Berry song that I ever really loved.
Aww.
I don't think it was probably the
Aw.
first one that I heard. I can't quite remember that. It was probably Take My Hand. But this is the first song that I really connected with, and it was just a gateway drug to my being here with both of you right now today.
Yeah.
I just feel like flooded talking about it. It's just so life affirming. It's just this burst of joy in the middle of this at times kind of gloomy album. I love how personal it is. I love at points his lyrics are very highly specific. He talks about his niece and nephew, his sister. He gives a shout out to the Market Porter, which is a real pub in Borough Market in London.
Yeah.
Apparently one of his known haunts. And it just has this strong sense of self-awareness about what makes him happy, right down to his lines about peace and quiet, no fear. This is a song, a lot of this album feels like someone who's adrift. And this song doesn't feel adrift. This song feels like someone who really knows themselves
Yes.
and is at peace with themselves. I have to just give a special mention to his vocals. This is maybe not my all-time favorite Matt Berry song, but it's easily my favorite Matt Berry vocal performance.
Mhm.
His
Aw.
voice is at points almost cracking with intensity as he sings this. If I had to pick one favorite line delivery in his entire catalog, it would be when he says, "Late night setting sun, my father and my mom." He just sounds so overwhelmed with happiness singing it, and it makes me overwhelmed with happiness, and God, I love this song.
You know, part of that too is that because he was in such a dark place when he wrote the song, I almost wonder if he did take a moment, like Tara said, and took stock, partially because he was homesick or partially because he's like, okay, I'm feeling really down. Let me focus on the things that I really love. And he's almost trying to convince himself, these are the things I love. There's good in this world still. These are, you know, let me embrace these things that just make me me and get rid of all the bad vibes and the bad juju. And it's just, I don't know, like musically, I don't necessarily think this song is the best. I mean, lyrically, it's very simple, but I think just because it's so personal and just so pure, I mean, I think it's nearly perfect to me.
You're right.
Oh my
It
gosh.
is perfect.
Is this the other one that we're going to agree on? Do we all
Oh,
give this
no!
That
one?
was
Is this a 5-star song
That was my
from
bet.
all of us?
I give it a
this
5.
is an easy 5 stars for me.
2-in-1 album. Shut
Oh
the
my
hell up.
god, guys!
Have we ever all given something 5 stars?
I don't
No.
think
I
so.
think
this is a
I
first.
don't
That's
think
definitely
so.
a first. And
This
that's
is
funny
amazing.
too because we all kind of like it for different reasons. Like for you, Courtney,
Yeah.
it's because this was like the first one that you really gripped onto and really loved, and then Tara, it's because you like personally took stock in it, and for me, I just think it's like because it's so pure and so him that, you know, that's really funny that it's for all different reasons, but we all gave it the same 5 stars.
Guys, 2-on-1 album, but this is very exciting. It was all 5 on 5.
That's a very exciting thing. And then we move on to
Enjoy it
something
while it
that's
lasts.
not so great.
Yeah.
I didn't even
Yeah.
give stars on this one. I don't know. So this is the intermission. To me, it's just strange. Like, this whole album is like less than 34 minutes. I don't feel like we needed an intermission. I don't feel like we needed change of theme or tune because it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily change.
Yeah.
But this, like, musically, it sounds something that was more, should have been on Witch Hazel than Phantom Birds. Like, it sounds like this is something that he just kind of had kicking around for a while and he couldn't find a home for it. He wasn't sure what to do with it, but he wanted to use it in some way, so it kind of just ended up here.
Yeah, I agree with that. It sounds like familiar to a different album.
Witch Hazel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
It feels
I
like a
agree with
Witch
that.
Hazel B-side.
It does. Like, he
This is
used
just-
these intermissions and interludes all the time, but like forever, if there's ever an album that didn't need one, I feel like it's this one.
And especially in this placement, right after Take a Bow, which is easily the most kind of passionate song on the album, and right before Hail to the King, which is... we'll
But it's
get
also
there, but
upbeat, though.
Yeah.
Like, Take a Bow is
It's
upbeat.
upbeat,
Hail
yeah.
to the King is upbeat. Like, I could kind of get it if you were just switching tones, but he didn't really do that.
feels so unnecessary.
It does feel
a little
unnecessary.
confusing, yeah.
It's confusing. Agreed.
Yeah.
He's
Like, I don't
usually
hate
so
it.
strong at song placement, so just don't get the thinking here.
Yeah.
No, I don't either.
I agree with that, girls. Oh my god. So far, we're very on par. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go to Hail to the King, and I know this one's going to be contentious. From Clash Magazine, they ask Matt, Hail to the King tackles a much larger topic, doesn't it? He says, I'm sort of commenting on Christianity, and I'm not going particularly deep with it. But it's a story that I heard, and I've done my best to make it interesting and short and concise in song form. But it was something that I heard somebody went with. I mean, I don't chuckles, because it's pretty graphic stuff. Yeah, it's just a comment on organized religion, I suppose. When I first heard the song, that's exactly what I thought of when I heard it. It sounds to me like the hypocrisy of specifically Christianity, but I think just organized religion in general is the same. Just, it's hypocrisy.
Time to take your boots off, she said, as she lay across her bed, where he looked frightened, like a dude facing death. I'm a man of Jesus. If I lay across your bed, well, I'd be damned. Please forgive me. Then he turned and shook his head. Hail to the King of everything. All at once the room felt electric. Thoughts inside his head were connected. Faith and peace and love and shit
really love this song. This is actually my favorite song on the entire album.
Oh my god.
I really
Okay.
love the constant tempo changes. For some reason I really like songs like that. I was trying to think of other examples earlier today. They always grab me. I feel like they're very interesting where the song doesn't stay on the same melody the whole time, where it shifts. And I think it's just good storytelling in the lyrics as far as I'm concerned. And then the line, you guys are gonna laugh, faith and peace and love and shit, oh yeah. That could be my favorite Matt Berry lyric to date. I feel like, to me, it just speaks to me. I want to get it tattooed on my body, and I don't have any tattoos. But I feel like this song is also kind of the closest to him showing a cynical or a political side that we've ever seen before. And I am a sucker for political music, like angry political music, like Ohio by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young is one of my favorite songs ever. So, this is nowhere near that as far as like an angry political song, but I think it's definitely a very cynical, and you don't see that side of him. And this one, he definitely does. So I really like that about it.
I love this song because it's another religious, I use like air quotes, like another religious song of Matt's, where I think that he's like me. I was raised Catholic. I'm very much atheist, but you have that ingrained in you, and you kind of see the hypocrisy of everything. So when I heard this song, I took it as being from the woman's perspective. I took it as he knows a lady who's like, oh, like I went to hook up with this guy, and he was like very religious and like being like, oh no, I can't. And again, it's probably just all in my head, but I very much think that it's kind of like, tongue-in-cheek, what would Jesus do? He would fucking lie the hell down, dude. Like,
right.
calm down.
Yeah,
like, it's not a big deal.
Exactly. Because I think of it as like a prostitute, like soliciting. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Whoa."
The first thing I wrote in my notes, top bullet point, is weakest song on the album feels unstructured and rambling. The lyric that you named as your all-time favorite, Peace and Love, what is it?
Faith and peace and love and shit.
Faith
Oh,
and
yeah.
peace
Oh,
and love
yeah.
and shit is, I think, one of the weakest lyrics he's
Oh
ever
my
written. I also, and this has come up before, it is my pet peeve when artists just sub in, oh yeah, like at the end of lines. It just feels like a placeholder, like they couldn't be bothered to come up with anything better. That line just to me feels unfinished. There's stuff to like about this song. I really like the harmonica. Like a lot of other songs on the album, it adds some nice texture. It is catchy. A lot of the songs in this album are really catchy.
Yeah.
He's got some great earwormy melodies.
Mhm.
But when this song gets stuck in my head, I'm not happy about it. I want it gone. I want Take a Bow to take its place. I came to the same interpretation as you both as far as what's going on in the lyrics, but to me they felt hard to decipher to the point of being unfocused.
I love the line where he says, all at once the room felt electric, thoughts inside his head were connected. And then he goes on to say, faith and love and peace and shit, oh yeah. I don't know, I just really like that line. I like the way it feels disconnected because it's interesting.
And I don't even really dislike it. I mean, this is one of my favorite of Matt's albums, even if I think this is musically the weakest song on the album. I don't think it's the weakest thing he's ever done by a stretch. I'd give it a solid 2.5 stars.
I kind of feel like the overall opinion is more people don't like this one than do like it, but I freaking love it. I gave it 5 stars.
I gave it 4.5 out of 5. I really like this one.
So, next up, In My Mind.
Oh, in my mind. Oh,
Like the tethered ego, let me go free. I can always feel you following me. You're in the trees, you're at the bar, on the breeze. You're never far from my mind. Like a ghost at midnight, with the power of pain. It's just the shittest feeling, so never again. You're in my shed, you're in the fields. When I'm dead, you're beneath over me.
This song is just about being completely devastated by the loss of a love. I can listen to this one on repeat, and I do listen to it on repeat. We've all been in his shoes where the loss of a romantic partner cuts you so deep and just consumes you so completely that you're reminded of it, like everywhere you turn. He names in this song very mundane places, and no matter where he goes, she's there. Her memory is haunting him at every turn. Like, lyrically, this song is so wonderful. Each verse has a line that will stick with you. The opening line, like a tethered eagle, let me go 3. It's so punchy, and I can't love it more than I do. And actually, I've made my husband learn this song so I can sing it. I sing it very badly. I'm not a good singer, but he like plays the guitar, and we've had some mashups where he plays the guitar and plays the drums and I sing, because it is just such a beautiful song. I'm curious, like he mentions something where he's like, when I'm dead, you'll be kneeled over me.
It's a great line.
What do you,
It's a
like,
really great line.
it is so, like, it touches me, but like, what do you guys interpret it as? I've been kind of like stuck on it.
That you just can't ever get over that person. Like, they'll
Yeah.
always be haunting you. Like,
Okay,
They'll
and
always
fair.
be hovering.
yeah.
I was kind of like, oh, she kind of killed you with like your heartbreak or something, and I just, it's a beautiful line. Like, this song just has so many beautiful
Yeah,
lines.
It is. Like the
Yeah.
ghost at midnight with the power
Oh.
of pain. It's
Oh
the
my God.
shittest feeling, so never again.
Oh
That
my
that
God.
I think is back to back with the other one, that this is might be my second favorite Matt Berry lyric to date. It's just like, he's clearly done with love and relationships. Like, that's it. He's
Yeah.
literally being haunted by the thought of somebody you're not over, that he's not over yet. Like, you feel like you see them everywhere and everything reminds you of them. He's desperate to get relief from the grief, but no one gets it, that he just can't get over it that easily. Like, he tries everything he can to get over it. I also think it's funny that he mentions seeing her in his car, which clearly,
Took the words out of my mouth.
unless he has a driver on standby, we all know he doesn't drive, so I kind of doubt that he has a car.
Unless it's a horse and carriage.
Yeah, I think he took a
We
little
don't think
bit of
that's true.
creative license with that one.
Yeah. So my favorite of this song is like, so it's a very serious song. Like, I take this whole song very seriously. And then he like says, so I went to the wise men who gave me some leaves. What the hell am I meant to do with these?
Mhm.
I find it funny. I find it like kind of amusing thing to say. And I love it when I hear it. I'm like, like, it kind of gives like a moment of brevity to a very serious song.
And you know what that line always reminds me of every single time I hear it is that scene in the IT Crowd when he goes to the tent and he buys the love potion, which is really just roofies. It reminds me of that every single time I hear it.
I've never
Love
thought
Potion,
of
that's
that.
just
That
by
makes
Hypnol.
sense.
Right now, right?
I've never thought of that.
Every single time I hear that line, that's what I think of. That's where my brain automatically goes to that line, to that scene.
He's like in the tent. He's like,
Yeah.
oh.
To see the wise
What
man.
is it? She unleashes a mighty tiger behind my fly.
Oh my goodness.
I'm totally on board with both of you that this is one of the best songs he's ever written. It's one of my favorite songs that he's ever written. You both articulated really well why this works. It just has this profound feeling of desperation and this need to search for relief but not finding any. The harmonica really works here. It gives it a slightly frantic feel. His usual nature imagery. I played this for my husband and his takeaway was he really likes to talk about animals. He does like to talk about animals.
Yeah.
Not what I took, but not inaccurate. But here he kind of flips it to be slightly menacing, you know, like the tethered eagle. And he goes back to this theme of criticism of religion, talking about going to the good book, but there's nothing within. The whole takeaway of the song is that we can't escape our emotions, and it just builds and builds and builds in intensity. There's these organ runs, this propulsive beat. At the end, he kind of goes into this vocal breakdown that's really uncharacteristic for him. This is just one of the best breakup songs I've ever heard. I can't think of another song
Yes.
that really illustrates that feeling of obsession quite so well.
Yeah, like the aftermath of a really, 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 really horrible breakup. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of songs about like romantic obsession, but there's not a lot of songs about that, just seeing people everywhere, constantly being reminded of them.
And not
I
wanting
don't know,
to
there
be.
probably are a lot of songs.
But not wanting to be. It's like not the obsession of like, oh, everything reminds me of you. Like in a good way. This is like in a bad way. Everything reminds me of you. I see you everywhere. I don't want to. I need to get relief.
Yeah.
No one understands. Yeah.
This is a solid 5-star song for me.
For me as well.
Oh my
5 out of 5.
Wow.
I am like so shocked.
Who'd have
It's
thought
obvious.
that?
So
Who'd have
like
thought
a 5
that
out of 5.
Phantom Birds was going to be the one where we're like 5 stars left and right. And
I
we're all
didn't
agreeing
think.
on everything. This is super surprising.
Ah.
So,
We
Moving
love you,
on
and
from
I'm
the
gonna
best
bask in
song
that
ever.
feeling because
oh, it goes downhill from there apparently. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, okay. Moving on to That Yellow Bird. This is the second of the 3 songs that he wrote while he was in Toronto. This song was actually written for What We Do in the Shadows, and he repurposed it for Phantom Birds, as he likes to do, because I think that Matt lives by my personal motto of work smarter, not harder, because he does this quite a bit. And, you know, more power to him. Like, I've been called Johnny Cut Corners quite a bit. Not cutting corners. I work smarter, not harder. Like, why do things twice
Fair.
if I already have
Yeah.
something I can repurpose it into something else? I kind
That's
of
fair.
got through my entire college career like that, but it's a long story.
You broke my heart and I fell into space. I could not face such disgrace. That yellow bird, she swooped down today, then flew away. What can I say? I see a glow around you. The brightest fire describes you. In every sound I hear you. I play the fool, but you're too good for that. One dog, one cat, tit for tat. My love is vast, it could fill the sea. Let's always be.
This song is, whenever I hear this album, I don't usually shuffle, but I do have like an actual Matt Berry playlist, which is, you know, it does get shuffled. But whenever I hear this song, the first line, "You broke my heart and I fell into space," for whatever reason, I always think that this is the first song on the album. Because, I mean, that particular line is the entire album. So I think it really just totally sums it up. Then he says that I could not face such disgrace, and this line always breaks my heart for him. Like, it seems like he was embarrassed that this relationship ended. I don't know if he was embarrassed by the end of it or embarrassed by how torn up he was about it, but this line always, it really breaks my heart. I think it's super sad. He also says, I play the fool, but you're too good for that. So, like, did she see him as being, you know, as a comedic actor? Is that something that was beneath her? I don't know if that's what he meant by it, but that's what it makes me think of. Like, maybe him being an actor, a comedic actor especially, was not good enough for her.
I always wondered if that was less about her, although that could very well be the case, but more about his own kind of conflicted emotions regarding his acting career and how big it had gotten at this point.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
If you read
like,
a lot
flipped
of
it
the
around.
interviews, this album came out about a year after Year of the Rabbit. Really underrated show.
Mm-hmm.
But if you read a lot of the press that he did around Year of the Rabbit, which would have presumably coincided with when he was in this relationship, he calls himself a clown a lot, not necessarily in a complimentary way. He talks about how people just kind of expect him to be the clown and that's all they want from him. There's one interview in particular, we can link to it, where he talks about how no one wants him to be their life coach. They just want him to show up and do his shtick and leave. So I always took that more about his own struggle with what role comedy plays in his life. You know, he's been very open. This was not his long-term goal. It was something he fell into too, and he's
Yeah.
always really considered himself a musician first. That seems pretty apparent. It seems like that's kind of resolved. I think just judging from the more recent interviews, he seems to have struck more of a balance and maybe come to terms with the fact that he is a really well-known comedic actor now. But clearly for a while he was struggling with that.
And
Kind of an identity crisis.
right, and not to say, like, he's always said that he's incredibly lucky that he gets to do what he gets to do. Like, he's
Yeah.
never said that he regrets any decision that he made about being an actor, and especially a comedic actor. Like, he knows he's incredibly lucky. He says that he loves doing it. But yeah, I think he also kind of regretted, that that's only how people see him when that's not who he is, maybe.
This is a kind of an interesting song for me in that I initially loved it. The year I discovered Matt's music in 2021, and this was my most played song on Spotify in 2021.
Oh.
I just, for whatever reason, clicked with it and played it over and over and over. I would take walks and just listen to it multiple times back to back. And whatever initially resonated with me kind of faded over time, because I now hear the song, it's got a really warm melody, it's got some nice warm vocals, it feels a little bit like a lullaby, but the lyrics are just kind of cliches at points, and that's hard for me to get past now. I think it's because I've dove deeper into Matt's music and heard what he's capable of, and heard how poetic his lyrics can be in his best songs. And compared to that, My Love Is Vast, It Could Fill the Sea just falls a little flat. I keep going back when I talk about this album to how the stuff that really works is the stuff that feels specific. It's hinting at something just below the surface. And what I like about this song is those hints of kind of domesticity and maybe like even kind of shared jokes or shared meaning in the relationship. We don't know what the yellow bird means. We don't know what one dog, one cat, tit for tat means, but they mean something. And musically, it's a very pretty song. The steel guitar really adds to the wistful feeling here, and really kind of lovely. But yeah, it just feels like he didn't kind of give 100% to this one.
I have a lot of lyrics in this song that hit me hard. I see a glow around you, the brightest fire describes you, in every sound I hear you, a harvest moon in summer, the world's most vibrant color, a love to match no other. Those specific lyrics gloss over all the other ones that I maybe don't like as much.
No, I agree. I think that's really poetic. It's like he's definitely putting her on a pedestal where maybe she didn't belong.
I have to say, I really don't like the intro lyrics of this song. I think that he is capable of better, even just rearranging the sentiment and the rhymes of the first few lyrics. It kind of throws me off because I really like some later stuff.
The intro line is the best thing about this song for me.
Oh,
You're talking about
You
You broke my heart and I fell into space. Oh, I think that's such an evocative.
I don't like, I could not face such disgrace. I find that too short, and I find it kind of lacking.
No, I
find it so telling.
I do too. I think those two lyrics, I feel like, have a shit ton of meaning, and I think they're really telling and really deep.
Yeah.
It hints at all kinds of self-destructive behaviors. Like, you can't face such disgrace. How did you face it?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Which kind of leads into the next song, I think, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for this one, though, I gave it 4 stars. I really do love this song. I think it's really strong lyrics. I think the music is good.
I agree. I gave it 4.
3 for me, and it would be stronger if the lyrics were just a little more polished, a little tightened up.
So we're almost there.
We're in the home stretch.
We are.
Yeah.
Waving goodbye.
Shine like a star. I'm headed to Mars. There I will stay today. It's all too much for me. There's nothing to see. I will be free again. Hang around here. Let's not bother. Why? Let's not bother. In time I'll be sober. So I'm ready to go. No one will know. No one will care about me. I'm high
had
Oh,
the
yeah.
same thought about this song. You messaged me, Jesse, yesterday saying, what old song does this remind you of?
Mhm.
I can't place it. And I immediately said 8 Miles High. And I think you were like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It totally has that kind of multi-layered, reverby
hmm
bird sound to the point where it feels like a conscious tribute.
To me, it feels more like the Zombies. But yeah, I totally get the birds of the Zombies, but that era for sure.
For sure. Yeah, it's his most overtly psychedelic song in this album, musically and in the lyrics, the imagery.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Very heavily psychedelic.
Yeah. But in the same regard, I feel like this song feels completely out of place in this album. And I usually forget that this song exists on the album.
That's
It's
exactly
not-
what I said. Oh my god, that's exactly what I said. Sorry.
And it's not that I don't like it. I mean, I love that authentic mid to late 60s sound. I love the echoey, reverby vocals, the repeats. I don't know if that's what they're called. He mentioned sobriety again, which kind of links back to what you said before, Courtney, about how did he get through the disgrace. It's like, to me, it sounds like a hippie stoner song. Like, he is literally high as a kite. That's how he's getting through the pain. As far as that part, sure, it fits on the album, but as far as like the sound of it, because it is so psychedelic, and this isn't, it's not what this album is about. That's why I feel it's weird. There's like a part in the middle. It's kind of, it sounds like a flute, but it must be the mellotron. I think that's really cool. I would love to hear an entire album just like this. I just don't like this song on this album.
To me, it feels like a companion piece with Moonlight Flit, maybe along with Take a Bow, two of the more upbeat songs on the album. Whereas Moonlight Flit feels joyous, this one feels slightly desperate. It's an ode to escape, but you can't escape the reality, right? He says, in time I'll be sober. No one will care about me. That to me feels like an allusion to his increasing fame and desire to just get away from it, which he to some degree got during COVID, during lockdown. It works for me. It is a little out of place, but not so much that it feels disjointed. It has the organ and the mellotron, which kind of tie it back to the earlier songs. I think it's kind of a slight song, but an effective one.
This is the only song on the album that if you told me the name of the song, I could not off the top of my head start singing it. I find it forgettable. When I start listening to it, I'm like, oh, like, yeah, like,
oh, it's like,
this
oh,
song's
it's
alright.
this one. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I know this song. But I just find it kind of just lacking in anything engaging, like overall something that like kind of sticks with you. It's just kind of meh.
Don't get me wrong. I really do think that this song is cool. I like the lyric. I like that it's kind of like a song about escape, whether it's literally getting high to escape or if it's just wanting to disappear, basically. Like, to me, it sounds like it would fit better on the Blue Elephant than it fits on this one.
When he talks about falling into space on that yellow bird, this to me is that sound of falling into space.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
It has that kind of astral psychedelic feel.
Mm-hmm.
And also that like slight desperation under the surface.
Oh, yeah. I gave it 3 stars, and it's not because I don't like it. I just feel the sound of it is out of place here.
I would give it a little more than that. For me, it's a 3.5. Maybe even a 3.75. I think it is kind of a fun experiment, but when you think of Matt's best psychedelic songs, I wouldn't put this in the top.
I gave it 2.5. Yeah, like it's meh.
But like, is it just me, or did he really kind of nail that sound of like,
No, he
the
really
zombies
did.
or the birds? Like, I'm super impressed with that he really did nail that sound.
He nailed it, but here's the thing, and I know we've touched on this before. Usually when he replicates retro sounds, it doesn't sound like pastiche. It sounds like him borrowing ideas from the past, but putting his own spin on them.
Yes.
This song to me sounds like pastiche.
I
It sounds
agree.
like...
Yes. I think you just put your finger on what exactly it is that I don't like about it. And I just couldn't pinpoint it, but I think that's exactly what it is. He nailed the sound, but he kind of did it to do it and not, yeah, that's totally it.
So, closing out the album, it's been a ride. We come to our final song, Covered in Clowns.
Just like that thunder you caught in the net. Just like John Landis who said we'd not met. Just like that resort where tragedy fell. Just like that windmill that vanished itself. Just like your mother who's always in debt. just like your father's covered in clowns.
This song has some pretty evocative, elusive lyrics as well, but he actually did speak to October magazine about one of the most memorable lyrics in the song, about John Landis, who says they've not met. So he told October magazine about this line. I was asked to audition for him. This is over 10 years ago when I first started in the industry. I was asked to audition for John Landis for a film called Burke and Hare. I did, and I met him, and I did what he wanted me to do. He said, "That's great. Do you want to do it?" And I said, "Yeah, obviously." I left the audition in high spirits. It was the first film audition that I'd ever done. And not only that, I'd been offered the part. It wasn't a huge part, but I'd still been offered the part by John Landis, right? It was a big deal. I called up my agent immediately and said, "He just offered me this." And he was as excited as I was. Anyway, time went by, and I phoned up the agent 2-3 weeks later, and I said, "What's happened with that Burke and Hare film?" He checked, and then he got back to me like an hour later and said, "John Landis has no recollection of you." By putting it in a song, it sounds like it's bothered me for years, but that isn't the truth. I have no beef with John Landis. It just sounded good. It makes you think, just what the hell is that about? I should have probably thought about that, because this is the thing that I've been asked about the most.
I bet.
All right, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, that's a sick
I
burn,
am not
man.
so convinced that it hasn't bothered him for all those years.
It would,
To me,
though. Come on, that would.
This song is full of contradictions and things that don't make sense, and he is kind of placing that anecdote in the context of things from his life that just don't make sense, that can't be explained.
I've never heard of this movie. I just decided to look it up to see if it actually exists. It does exist. It's from 2010. And it has got a hell of a cast. Like, I don't know what part Matt auditioned for, but like Tim Curry is in it, Tom Wilkinson's in it, Simon Pegg is in it, Christopher Lee is in it. This is a good cast.
And this would be so Matt what he would be into, because I'm just like Googling it. It's like the Burke and Hare murders from 1828 in Edinburgh, Scotland. Like, he would be totally into that. He'd be insulted that he didn't actually get that. So.
I don't know. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
If all this time later and he's inserted it into a song, I feel like that burn stuck with him.
Honestly, it's one of the best lyrics that he's ever came up with. Like, I love this lyric. I love it. I just, when I first heard it, it was just kind of just like so out of place. And I was like, oh, John Landis, who says we've not met. Like, it was just kind of, I found it very charming and like just, I found it a very Matt thing. So for him to kind of like backpedal on it, like, oh, I didn't care. Like, you cared enough.
Well, he
You
should have cared
enough.
too, because that's
Shitty. That's shitty of John Landis.
Yeah, I feel like Matt is the only person on the planet that knows what the hell this song actually means. This is one of the songs that's just like all imagery.
Yeah.
Like, it's impossible to decipher.
Yeah.
And the only thing that we actually know is about the John Landis question is because an interviewer actually asked him about it straightforward. Otherwise, we wouldn't know what that means either. This is another song where I really like the music, but I very much prefer lyrics that are more straightforward, like at least a little bit straightforward. Like, this one just means nothing to me because I have no idea what any of it means. The other thing too, which I didn't notice until I just listened to this last night, actually, probably because I had it turned up in my headphones pretty high. At around the 2 minute and 5 second mark, there sounds like distant thunder, and then you hear somebody muttering in the background, but I can't tell what he's saying, and it's possible even that it's in reverse. I can't make
the
it out
thunder
at all.
that she caught in the net.
I feel like it's later than that, though.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It might be.
No, it's definitely during the instrumental bridge, and I tried so hard to figure out what he was saying. It's just purposefully out of
You can't
earshot.
figure it
Doesn't
out.
want
Did you
to
think that
know.
it might be in reverse, too?
I didn't get that, but it would make sense. I mean, he definitely has played around with those reverse
he did it
vocals
on
in the past.
Blue
so
Elephant.
The Blue Elephant, multiple points.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is probably the most personal song on the album. And so for that reason, it's hard to connect with because it feels so specific to him. But I kind of love that it exists. I love how esoteric it is, and there's that sense of being highly specific again. And even though this song is not explicitly about the end of a relationship in the way some of the other songs on this album are, it clearly seems to kind of fit that theme of just not making sense. All he can do is place the relationship in the context of this larger pattern of dysfunction, you know, just like your mother who's always in bed, just like your father who's covered in clowns. Is he referring to the girl? We don't know, but it's just this pattern of things going awry and people trying to connect and not connecting.
So this song just like straight up gives me chills. Every time I hear it, it's almost like the first time. Like, I am so deeply in love with this song, and I don't know what the lyrics mean. I mean, your mother always in bed. She's always in bed. Your father covered in clowns. What does that mean? I don't know. Did he have a favorite pair of clown pajamas? Like, I don't know. And I love the kind of vagueness of it. And this is hands down one of my favorite songs that Matt has ever written. And it's the best song on the album. And I would say it's top 5 for anything he's written. And the fact that it is the last song on the album, I've always kind of found a little bothersome, because I'll be like playing it, whether it's on Spotify or on, you know, playing it on vinyl, and then all of a sudden the album's over. I'm not saying that he placed it wrong. I just think that this is a phenomenal song. The ambiguity of it, like, it's perfection. I really couldn't love it more, honestly.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure it's going to be no surprise how many stars Tara gives this song, so you want to just get it out of the way now?
Definitely 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
I was gonna say, like, a ridiculous number out of 5, but let's get serious. It's, you know, it's 5 out of 5.
Courtney, how about you?
3.5. I really like how personal this song is. I really appreciate how vulnerable it is and the fact that he went there. But as a piece of music, it doesn't really grab me, and the nature of the lyrics make it hard to connect with.
Yeah, I agree completely. I gave it 3 stars for almost the exact same reasons. It's definitely personal for him, because only he knows truly what it means. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not great. It's in the middle for me. 3 stars.
It's just surprised.
Yeah, I like it as a peek inside his head, which this whole album really is to one degree or another. And like looking inside anyone's head, there's a lot there that just doesn't make sense to anyone else.
If this is the inside of his head, it's a mess. But that's okay.
Wait till we get to the next album after this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyway, you know, I think we'll probably give this one overall star ratings. And overall for me, this album is just such a huge departure from what he's used to doing, with just so few instruments. The entire genre is different, which, you know, is not that different for him, but there's really nothing psychedelic about it. It's just completely stripped back and clean and beautiful and super personal. I really think this album overall has some of his strongest lyric writing to date, because this is definitely a lyric driven album, not a music driven album, although the music's fantastic too. For this one, I give this a solid 5 stars for the entire album.
Yay.
Wow. Perfect score.
Yeah, it really is. It's perfect. It's got flaws. It's got flaws. But I think what's good about it, I think makes up for its downfalls. You know, I think just the fact that he did it, and he did it so well as a whole, makes up for the sum of its parts, you know?
So I don't think it's any big secret for anyone who's been listening that I really like Matt at his most psychedelic. I love the ornate songs. I love the Badger's Wakes. I love the music for Insomniacs. I love the songs that have a lot of moving parts. That's not the only thing he does well by any means, but it's what first drew me to his music. That's not true, actually, because Take a Bow was the first song I really loved. But it's, I tend to like the more ornate music, and this is such an outlier in his catalog. I really love that he took the risk. Not everything works. The stuff that doesn't work, I think, really doesn't work. But the stuff that does work hits so hard, and like I was saying, was really the first album that drew me into his work. So I don't think he's ever going to make an album like this again. and I'm kind of glad for that, but I'm also really glad that it exists. I'll give it 4 stars.
Phil did say that his new album is stripped back, so I'm wondering how stripped back it is, and if it's more like this, or if it's a different vibe completely, maybe just an acoustic album. That would be very cool.
That would be
I hope
cool.
so.
Matt had talked in interviews around Gather Up about how this next album was going to play a lot with quiet loud dynamics. He said he was listening to a lot of old metal, like kind of early Black Sabbath, like proto metal, and was playing a lot with like extreme quiet and then extreme loud. So that's what I'm expecting.
Interesting. That definitely doesn't sound stripped back.
No.
But that was also early stages, right? These projects evolve.
It could have also just been, he may have been saying stripped back because of the minimal instrumentation that he's going to use too.
That's true.
I don't know.
I can't wait to find out.
Right.
I would really like a new album drop. Sorry, I would be very excited to have another Phantom Birds-esque album. That goes without saying. This album is just, it's like my favorite type of music, and Matt does it so well. I definitely give it a very strong 5 out of 5.
That was really anticlimactic.
We're
like
all
as
so
if we
tired.
as if we didn't know what you were. The other thing I just wanted to point out about this album is it's so short. The whole album is less than 34 minutes. And I cannot believe how much he packs in to that short amount of time. Like, such strong songwriting in such a short overall amount of time. It's crazy.
It's perfection.
Especially when he had so much material to work with. Because, like we've discussed throughout the last few hours, there is a whole album of outtakes and demos, like a full-length album, consisting largely of songs that didn't make the cut for this one, some of which are quite good.
Right.
So this album it's short, but not for lack of ideas. It's short because it's curated, and he put a lot of thought into what made it onto the final product.
Yeah.
Matt actually talks about this in a Beige Green Room podcast that he was on. The interviewer asks Matt, "I'm very impressed. Can I say that, certainly with Phantom Birds, that with the exception of one track, they're all 3 minutes or under, which I think, when you are only working alone, the temptation to kind of, I suppose, just carry on and go, oh, I like this motif. I'm going to do a 6.5 minute track." Matt says, well, no, I think, once you've said what you need to say, especially with that least amount of instrumentation, I think you need to get out pretty fast.
Well, that's what he did, and it works, for sure. I know Tara's attention span appreciates it.
I love this album. I could not love it more. It's so perfect. Like, it's short, it's lyric-driven, it's, honest to God, like, he made it for me.
Well, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This has been a fun episode. Don't forget to follow us at Obsessed Obscure on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and join our Discord. We have some fun chats on Discord, so definitely check it out. Also, if you haven't done so already, if you enjoy this show, if you could subscribe or follow, whatever the case may be, on your preferred listening platform, that helps us stay visible. We didn't have a chance to mention it in our last episode, but we really want to thank Phil Scragg again for providing us with our exclusive new theme music. Thank you again for listening. We'll be back soon.
Thank you.
You and me and the BBC.